Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing another quick draft of March of the Machine. Without further ado, let's get into this draft. Don't really like our rare in this pack. I find that cards that require 3 sources of a single color are a little too restrictive to be that strong unless they are massively inherently powerful, and the problem with Tribute to the World Tree is that it is stronger the earlier you play it. So not only is it really hard to cast it early in the game because you need to hit 3 sources of one color, but it's not even great unless you do cast it early in the game, which kind of just compounds that issue even further. So not a huge fan of Tribute to the World Tree unless you can pull off like the mono green deck. It can still be okay in like the 11 forest 6 of your secondary color deck, but not a super strong card. I think Xerx Strobe Knight is just the strongest card in this pack. It's not very hard to cast 2 spells in one turn in this format, with abilities like Convoke that let you tap your creatures to help cast spells, with cards like Battles that count as casting a spell both when you play it and when you flip it to the backside. So there's multiple good ways to trigger the 2 or more spells ability on Strobe Knight, and a 2/2 Flying Vigilance is already pretty solid, so I'm gonna roll with Xerx Strobe Knight here. There's really not much else in this pack. I think Strobe Knight and Tribute to the World Tree are the cards that look the most individually powerful. Yuri can be pretty powerful, but Yuri is also incredibly restrictive, incredibly narrow. There's really only one archetype where Yuri's going to do anything. So we'll go for the Xerx Strobe Knight here as we move into pack 1, pick number 2. Well, it looks like maybe we should have taken the most narrow restrictive card pack 1. If we knew the future, if we knew Judith was coming, maybe we would have taken Yuri there, but Judith is quite the business here. 3 mana for a 2/2 that gives all of your other creatures +1/+0. Already great, and whenever your non-token creatures die, you get to deal 1 damage to any target, which can help stack up to be enough damage to help finish off opposing creatures. Judith is just a really, really strong card, and I think it's worth taking an off-color, 2-color rare when it's this powerful, and we're only on pick 2. We're definitely not wanting to be married to our pack 1, pick 1, so Judith, absurd magic card, we're going to take her here. If she wasn't in the pack, Zhalfirin Lancer would be a decent way to go, try to become the blue-white Knights deck, or we could take Temporal Cleansing to just stick to blue with the Strobe Knight, but I don't think anything else off-color is strong enough to push us off the blue outside of Judith and Zhalfirin Lancer. Pack 1, pick 3 is a little bit interesting here, because all of the best cards are the blue and the black cards. Aerial Boost is a pretty solid combat trick, but outside of that, Corruption of Tawashi is great in grindier blue decks, with Incubator tokens flipping and drawing you cards, Battles flipping and drawing you cards. Cryptomancer is great at protecting balmy threats, and Temporal Cleansing is pretty good at interaction in blue, so a bunch of good blue cards. But there's also Final Flourish out of black, which is one of black's best removal spells, one of the best removal spells in the format, period. Plenty of expendable artifacts and creatures to sacrifice to this, so 2 mana for -2/-2 at instant speed, already good. But if you get that sacrifice trigger, get that -6/-6, this is a tremendously good rate. I think I'm going to go for the Final Flourish. I think Judith is a little bit stronger than Xerx Strobe Knight, and the main thing that we want to do here is choose if we're trying to head in the Xerx direction or in the Judith direction. I think I'd rather be heading in the Judith direction, not only because Judith is stronger than Strobe Knight, but also I think Final Flourish is a bit stronger than any of these blue cards individually. So we'll scoop up the Final Flourish as we move into pack 1, pick 4. Another very solid spell for heading in the Judith direction. We've got a Stoke the Flames, 4 mana for an instant to deal 4 to any target. You can Convoke it as well to cast it for cheaper. Going to be really nice removal as well as a way to finish our opponent off for the red-black Judith strategy. This is a relatively splashy, relatively multicolored format. There are definitely some good mana fixing spells, so we could also take Elvish Vatkeeper here as the strongest non-removal spell, the strongest creature in the pack. 3 mana for a 3/3 with a 2/2 Incubator attached, and if you make it to 5 mana, you can start transforming your Incubators into twice their normal size. So instead of flipping the egg as a 2/2, you could flip it as a 4/4, so being able to get a 3/3 and a 2/2 off one card, or a 3/3 and a 4/4 off one card is already nice, and it potentially does even more than that. So Vatkeeper is the kind of sweetest card if we wanted to try to splash in a third color here, but I think I'm happy to just stick to 2 colors for now in primarily red-black. And this will be a nice and simple Scornblade Berserker, very good card for the black-red archetype. You get a little bit of sacrifice synergies going in that deck, and you don't even really need sacrifice synergies for Scornblade Berserker to be a decent little card here. Just put a counter on one of your other creatures and sack it to draw a card. It's always a pretty good game plan. The Streetwise Negotiator is the other strongest card in the pack, but we don't have any green cards yet, and it's kind of it. Everything else is very narrow. Like, most of those cards could fit into a deck, but they wouldn't be anywhere near the top end of the power level. Pack 1, pick 6, we mainly just have a couple fine removal spells. Shatter the Source, a bit slow, but it can kill pretty much anything, and then Vanquish the Weak is nice and cheap, but it only kills things with power 3 or less. I think I'd take a Vanquish the Weak over Shatter the Source, but it's quite close. This would also help me stick much heavier into black than red, in case we get pushed in a different direction, maybe end up in blue-black or something other than that. So I think I'll go for the Vanquish the Weak here. The best cards in this pack are Meeting of Minds for card drawn blue, and Angelic Intervention is a very good combat trick in white. But Vanquish the Weak is quite close to those, and again, it's in a direction that we're currently headed. Well, speaking of potentially changing directions, Redcap Heel Slasher is pretty filler. It's fine filler. It's not going to be horrible, but it's definitely not going to be like good or great. And Glistening Deluge is not a card that I'm super apt to main decking or super prone to main decking. Usually keep it in the sideboard, and this is a quick draft, so it is not going to be best of 3. There will be no sideboarding. So I think I would rather just take the strongest card in the pack individually, which I think is Converter Beast. Very good value, 4 mana for a 0/1, and you get a 2 mana 5/5 attached to it. So 2 creatures off 1 card is always good. The 5/5 body's great for the mana cost. We can also take Dismal Backwater, I guess, if we want to try splashing all 3 of these colors, get a little bit of Grixis going on, blue, black, red. Or we could take Joyful Storm Sculptor towards being a blue-red Convoke deck. But I haven't been a super big fan of blue-red Convoke, and feels like black is the least likely color to get cut right now. So I'll just take Converter Beast here and be a little bit open to everything. Pack 1, pick 8 doesn't really have anything for us. There's Angelic Intervention for white, Furia for white-black, Mirror Shield Hoplite for red-white. None of those directions seem like what we're doing. I would have to take my first white card if I take any of these 3, so I think I'd rather just take a Colony of Whispered Hopes for if we do end up in green-black or something, because this can get extra +1/+1 counters onto any Incubator tokens that we make, as well as any backup creatures that we have, and we already have 1 Incubate with Converter Beast and 1 backup card with Scornblade Berserker, so Colony of Whispered Hopes could be okay. Nothing much going on here, pick 9. Fixing if we really need it. Ravenous Sailback is technically main deckable, but I don't like high variance cards like this too much, where it's going to be really good when they have an artifact or enchantment and just a 5 mana 3/4 if they don't. Pyretic Prankster is pretty weak, but it is a 2-drop creature, I guess, to add to the deck. Yeah, it's probably Prankster, Sailback, or Flywheel Racer. I think Prankster is the worst of these 3 cards, but feels like it fills out a role that we would need the most. We have no 2-mana creatures yet out of the entire first pack, which is not exactly where we want to be, but we're still not committed to anything. I don't know, I'll just get my 3rd green card. We'll take a Ravenous Sailback. Not in love with the direction this draft has been going so far. Serpent Blade Assailant is a fine card, especially with Colony of Whispered Hopes to potentially add to the +1/+1 counters. I suppose we are still seeing a Bola Slinger and a Realmbreaker's Grasp. These were some of the better cards in this pack as a whole. But it is pack 1, pick 10, so it's kind of late to try to hop onto a 4th color speculatively. I guess Realmbreaker's Grasp and Bola Slinger are decently better than Serpent Blade Assailant, especially the Bola Slinger card is great for like green-white counters. Maybe we start heading in that direction with this Kami. This could pan out poorly, but we're going to be as open as possible. We're just going to have cards in every single color out of the first pack. Wow, okay, we've got an Aerial Boost for an excellent white combat trick. Surge of Salvation's okay, but I prefer the Aerial Boost because it's much more flexible. Cyber Cryptomancer is a very good combat trick out of blue. And Serpent Blade Assailant's just okay, so I think it's mainly Cryptomancer versus Aerial Boost here. We are 1 card deep into blue and white. I was gonna say white felt a little more open than blue, but it's a pretty late Cryptomancer at the very least. I think I'll take the Cryptomancer here. And yeah, I guess the bots just do not like aerial boost. Period. Because there's another one here we can take. I don't think we're gonna end up in red-green battles for rampaging Geoderm, so I'll take the aerial boost now. And I don't know, maybe we'll open up a sweet rare in the last pack. Archivist is really slow and dirtily, pretty much unplayable. Inspired Charge is not a good enough Anthem effect to really pop off and defeat anybody in this format, so Halo Charge Scab's kind of the only playable card in the pack. And ideally with this, you get some kind of combo with it with a really powerful instant or sorcery. So it's not necessarily like always playable, but it could be. Alright, well, no idea what's going on here. Maybe pack 2 can give us a really nice direction. Alright, there's 3 really powerful options out of this pack. First is Kroxan Kunaros, which is pretty powerful, but restricting us to having to play a 3-color deck is pretty rough. Especially black, red, and white. Like, I feel like those colors aren't the best at splashing. I guess you can get some treasure token shenanigans going on, but we don't have any treasures right now. So, I don't know. And this is mainly just a 6-mana 6/6 Vigilance Menace lifelink. The additional effect isn't going to trigger too often. So a 6/6 Vigilance Menace lifelink is still quite large and can definitely win you some games. But this is also a really removal-heavy format, and one removal spell does completely nullify the card unless you've got 6 cards in your graveyard to where this can hit the board and immediately reanimate something. So, I don't know. Strong, but locking into 3 colors is pretty hard. There's a second Xerox Strobe Knight. Doubling up on them gives us a pretty clear direction. Going for double spell shenanigans, trying to trigger that a lot, that would be pretty good. And then Tangled Skyline is just generically powerful. It's just a super strong green card. Doesn't give us like an incredibly clear path, but quite strong if we go green-black or green-white. This is hard. I think all 3 of these would be perfectly reasonable, perfectly respectable picks. We did get that really late Halo Charge Scab, the decently late Cryptomancer. Might try to see if we get to push into blue here with the Strobe Knight. Likely towards blue-black, but we could also be blue-white or blue-green based on the number of green and red cards that we have. I don't know if we have enough white cards. We could be blue-white. Yeah, we could be blue-white or blue-green based on the number of cards we have. I don't know if we have enough red cards to be blue-red with just a single Stoke the Flames in that direction. And pack 2, pick 2 does give us a super powerful blue spell. This is the best card in the pack by a lot. Artistic Refusal is like discount Cryptic Command, one of the best counter spells ever printed. You get to counter a spell and draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Sure, it's a lot of mana, but the fact that you get to convoke for it is so helpful. Super, super nice. Big fan of Artistic Refusal, best card in the pack. Slam dunk that. Alright, another incredible blue card so that we can stay very heavy on blue. Afara's Dispersal is really good interaction. Being able to bounce an attacking creature for 1 mana. It's just super cheap, and it sets up your draws to help you dig for whatever you need with that Surveil too, so Afara's Dispersal plays very, very well. It's also particularly good in this format if your opponent's playing any battles, because players will often make plays where it's like, alright, I need to hold a blocker up, but if I attack in aggressively enough and flip this battle, then I'll have the battle as a blocker. Like, people definitely play with like thinking ahead kind of plans of like, alright, this battle is going to be flipped, and once this battle is flipped, I can do this thing. So having a really cheap piece of interaction they might not see coming to make it so all of a sudden, no, you don't flip your battle this turn, can really change the course of the game. So Dispersal just plays super, super well. I'm going to scoop it up. Alright, another Final Flourish is absolutely ridiculous. We will scoop that up. I'd love to take an Oracle of Tragedy. Hopefully we can wheel that. This is really good for the blue-black archetype. You get to draw a card, discard a card. If it hits the board early, and if it hits the board late game, You have to shuffle a bunch of cards in to make sure you don't mill out and make sure that your deck is full of some more gas. So that card's great, but Final Flourish is just better. It's just phenomenal, efficient removal. We now get a second copy of Artistic Refusal, which is the Slam Dunk Insta-Pick. Sorry, Elvish Vatkeeper. Another copy of Cyber Cryptomancer looks pretty good here. And we've been seeing a lot of really powerful stuff. We saw that Elvish Vatkeeper, now we're seeing a Marshal of Zhalfir. But I think we're pretty firmly heading blue-black with double Final Flourish and Vanquish the Weak. Don't really have any black creatures, we just have one Scornblade Berserker, but I don't know. We don't have any Knights in white. Yeah, none of our white cards really work with Marshal of Zhalfir. I do have 2 Xerox Strobe Knight, which could kind of head to blue-white with the Marshal of Zhalfir. But I think I'm just going to stick heavy on blue for now, still with Cyber Cryptomancer copy number 2. We're not actually that heavy into black, so Timuret might actually be pretty difficult to cast, hitting that double black early. That being said, I still feel like Timuret's a lot more likely to get played than anything else in this pack. We already have good enough removal that there's no way Mirrodin Avenged gets into the deck when I have 2 copies of Final Flourish, Vanquish the Weak, Afar's Dispersal in this deck. And Negate is playable here, but still narrow enough that it misses a decent amount of the cards, so I'm not in love with it. Just take a Timuret, I suppose. Not a massive fan of Furtive Analyst or Consuming Aetherborn, so I think I'll take a Swiftwater Cliffs for a potential splash for Judith. Could help get there. We are seeing some great Knights out of this pack. If we had taken Marshal of Zhalfir, these would really help us out in that archetype. Both of these are premium cards for blue-white Knights. Well, all of these cards are on color for our potential blue/black/red deck, but I don't like any of them. I just find all of them to be a little bit underwhelming for their mana cost, compared to the power level of the average card you could get at the same cost. Suppose I should go ahead and take a look at exclusively blue and black cards here and see what roles we need filled, because we bounced around between colors enough that we need the majority of our picks for the rest of the draft to make it into the deck. So even if it's not a great card, if it fills out a slot on the mana curve that needs to be filled, we can like scoop it up here. So we really need more 1s and 2s more than anything. But we don't have any 4-drops, so I guess I could take Rona or Consuming Aetherborn. Not really in love with either. Definitely don't like Oculus Whelp here. We have 0 transform cards in our deck right now and 0 incubators. Literally nothing. Shapecraft, I guess it's cute with Cyber Cryptomancers. Cute combat trick, but that's not the role we need filled here. We need more creatures, ideally a lot more cheap ones to be able to convoke Artistic Refusal easily. The thing that's going the best for us in our deck right now is our non-creature spells. We have 2 Flourish, Dispersal, Vanquish the Weak, 2 Artistic Refusal, so I definitely don't need the Shapecraft. We don't need a mediocre non-creature spell. I guess I'll just take the Rona here. I don't think Rona's particularly powerful. Again, mainly just a bit expensive for their mana cost. A 4-mana 3/4, really color restrictive, so you need your lands to be working out quite well for you. Can't be on like 3 islands in a swamp. And having to discard 2 cards to recast Rona from grave means it's almost always better to just not do that. We'll see. Pack 2, pick 10 now. Unsealed and Acropolis is really good if you have like some bomb rares, but we don't really have any bombs to dig for. It's still pretty good with like Halo Charge Scab. These two can like combo with each other, which can play well. Completed Huntmasters. Good if you have a bunch of those cheap 1-2 mana expendable creatures. It's pretty good with our Cyber Cryptomancers, but again, we're not casting our Cryptomancers till later once we actually want to protect something with the backup ability. So it really doesn't feel like we have a lot of good cheap cards to go with Huntmaster yet. So, I don't know. Unseal has some issues where there's nothing good to really be digging for with it right now. Huntmaster has some issues where it doesn't really have anything to sacrifice. Wingspan's cool. I don't think it's great for this archetype, though. I could really just coin flip between Huntmaster and Unseal, but Guess I'll just up our creature count here. As I was saying before, our non-creatures are pretty great. We'll take a Hunt Master. Take the very filler Tenured Oil Caster. We did get the Oracle of Tragedy to come all the way back around the table. Pick 12. Really like seeing that. Really like adding to our 1 and 2 mana cards. Already spoke my piece on how much I like that card. It is pretty great. Pack 3, what do we got? Got Hirobi Death's Wail here, which has just played out too poorly for me too often for me to be interested in it. I think it's too easy that you just cast this and then your opponent has like a combat trick. If your opponent has an activated ability on the board when you cast this, you're just gonna have a super bad time. I had an opponent cast a Hirobi Death's Wail against me, and then I flipped my 4/4 that whenever it attacks, it makes another creature a 4/4 till end of turn. So I did that, and I just targeted their Hirobi, and it just died because it was targeted with an ability. So there's a lot of just random little abilities and stuff that could get your board state killed if you have this. So unless you have a ton of good synergies with this to be able to target a bunch of stuff on your opponent's board, I would generally avoid it. I've just had some bad experiences. Well, I haven't personally had the bad experiences. I've had my opponents have a bad time playing this card, so I think I'd rather just go with Preening Champion, which is like the best common in the format. 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer and a 1/1 on the ground. Gives you multiple bodies to help convoke, which is excellent. Multiple bodies to help block well, to make sure your opponent's not flipping any battles. Champion just plays super great, and I'll scoop it up. And for pack 3, pick 2, we can go ahead and take another Afara's Dispersal as another super great, efficient bounce spell. I am not a very big fan of Yargle. There are plenty of playable 3-power, 2-mana cards in this format, so unless you have a ton of ways to give Yargle double strike or flying or something like that, just playing Yargle because of those base stats is going to pan out pretty poorly for you when your 5-mana card dies to a 2-mana card. And Invasion of Kamigawa is just really slow and dirtily. I tried it a few times early in the format and it never worked super well. So we'll take Afara's Dispersal and be pretty happy with it. And we're super happy to get a blue rare pack 3 pick 3. 2 mana for a 2/1 flash flyer. Already great. If our opponent draws any second cards in their turn, we get to draw a card as well. And with that 4-mana ability, we can make it so each player draws a card. So if I use that 4-mana ability during my opponent's turn after they've already drawn their card for turn, that'll be the second card that my opponent draws, which means it's kind of like 4 mana to have my opponent draw 1 and have us draw 2. So very mastermind, very good stuff. Super happy to see that. We were looking for more good cheap creatures, and that's an excellent one. Speaking of good cheap creatures, Preening Champion a little bit more expensive than I was talking about. I'm looking for 1s and 2s, but Preening Champion is still phenomenal. Alright, here's a great 1-drop, a Scornblade Berserker here. We will add that to the party. Order the Mirror, again, really not that great unless you're specifically the Blue-White Knights deck. Protocol Knight is really good in the Blue-White Knights deck, but not good for our deck, and then Aetherborn is pretty mediocre. I guess Protocol Knight's starting to get okay. We have 4 Knights with 2 Preening Champion and 2 Xerox Strobe Knight, but I'd rather have the Berserker. Another 2-drop. This pack is just perfecting our deck for us. They are just handing us all the stuff we need. 1 and 2 mana creatures, some Preening Champions, we've got all our removal, and we got not a bomb rare, but we got a rare, which is nice, so deck is really shaping up now that we can take that Skyclave Aerialist for another 2 mana, 2-power flyer. We've got just really filler creatures, a super filler removal spell, or a pretty solid bounce kind of removal spell, so I'll take the solid bounce kind of removal. Assimilate Essence is actually a pretty solid counterspell in this format. 4 mana is quite a bit of attacks, so that's usually going to get whatever you're targeting countered. And creatures in battles is like over half the spells your opponent's going to be playing, because most decks are running 15 plus creatures, which is already a majority of their non-land cards. So I think Assimilate Essence is actually pretty solid. Just scoop up. This pack's pretty weak. We could take another Halo Charge Scab, I guess. I'm not going to play an Oculus Whelp or a Tenured Oil Caster in here. Got that Invasion of Kamigawa, that Yargle. That Zhalfir and Shapecraft. I don't have room for Shapecraft with all these non-creatures. I'm just gonna rare draft a Yargle. Back 3, pick 11. We actually don't have a lot of 4-mana creatures. I could actually play an Aetherborn. I think I'd play that over playing a Moment of Truth. So we'll add that to the deck. Another Assimilate Essence. Looks beautiful. Bunch of blue cards. Protocol Knight does not actually look horrible in this deck. We can play that and cut the Tenured Oilcaster now, which is just too slow for my tastes. And we've certainly got a deck. Didn't get to run any super duper explosive bomby rares like this format is known for, but this is a format where you can open up 2-3 rares in one pack, so we do still have at least a rare. Not a completely rareless deck. We've got Fairy Mastermind, Yuta Takahashi. World Champion. 27. So we get to cut 5 cards out of this deck. I think immediately black is a pretty low color, so we should probably just cut our double black cards to make our mana base as easy as possible. So cut Rona and Timuret, because it's going to be hard to get double swamp out. We probably want to go for even a 10-7 split mana-wise here. And then cutting 3 more cards. Love all of our non-creature cards, and this kind of archetype doesn't need a multitude of creatures. We could run a low creature count, like 13 would still be fine. Actually, starting to really enjoy the look of Completed Huntmaster in this deck alongside the Preening Champions. Not super in love with the Halo Charge Scabs. We didn't get any of the combos with them, so they don't really do much. I guess they put an Artistic Refusal on top. That's the best case scenario, which is a pretty good case scenario. But any other time, they're pretty bad. I want to just keep a million. These are potentially 1 mana. Like 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana things to do, Convoke things to do overall. I could see cutting the 5s. Double Strobe Knight, just go all in on that. Cryptomancers are like part of the top end of the curve. A lot of instant speed stuff too could be quite nice. You cut like Aetherborn. Some other slower cards. I guess Aetherborn would be the last cut. There's 41 cards right now. The curve's low enough that I could maybe cut a land, but I think even though my spells are mostly pretty cheap, I still want to hit all of my lands on curve up to 4 mana, and even onward some more lands, because I want to try to cast 2 spells in 1 turn. So I'm going to need a lot of mana to do that. 5 mana to play a 2-drop and a 3-drop, and so forth from there. We do have 2 Artistic Refusal. 2 Refusal and 2 Essence might be a lot of counter spells, especially when we have 3 targeted removal spells, 1 temporary, 2 bounce spells too. Could cut 1 of these Essences over the Aetherborn, but I don't know. Aetherborn is pretty filler. We'll just drop that. And I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a deck there. Alright, here's a look at today's deck. It's going to be another blue-black pile. Kind of my go-to bread and butter in this format. We've got some great evasive threats like Fairy Mastermind, Skyclave Aerialist, double Preening Champion, double Xerax Strobe Knight. So we're going to play all those while cluttering up the board a little bit with elemental tokens, 1/3s, 0/1s that draw a card, stuff like that. Hopefully clearing out any of their blockers or their attackers that are too big with cards like Final Flourish, Vanquish the Weak, and a bunch of counter spells like Assimilate Essences, and just chipping away at them in the sky until they die. This is kind of just like a blue-black Flyers deck more than anything, but we've got a bunch of great interaction, all those removal spells, 4 counter spells, 3 bounce spells with 2 dispersals and a temporal cleansing. So real good interaction, a bunch of cheap creatures to try to double spell pretty consistently with the Xerax Strobe Knights, and to help convoke out Artistic Refusals. So we're going to be a nice little tempo game plan today. Play some Flyers and stop everything they do. We'll see how much we can keep them under control as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are on the play. Turn 3 Preening Champion, turn 4 Protocol Knight. Little bit slow for sure, but I like the quality of the cards that we have in hand. Our opponent's going to start with a turn 1 Ichor Drinker. They are going on the opposite end of the spectrum. Nice quick start here. 1 drop on turn 1. Beat Stick on turn 2, they could give it Menace. And whenever it hits us, they get a treasure token. That is really good for the red-black archetype, because it is Rakdos Sacrifice. And they can sacrifice creatures or artifacts for value. So the treasure tokens help them dump their hand out early, and give them sacrificial fodder late. So good early and good late. Kenra's Spell Spear. If they flip that, it's a very scary prowess card. It's already moderately scary. You can play a Huntmaster and hold up an Assimilate Essence still, so that's probably the play. Then we get to hold up Artistic Refusal next turn, even without convoking it. Furnace Reigns as the play. If that hits me, they get another treasure, so if they have a 2-mana way... They already get another treasure from Ichor Drinker, so if they have a 2-mana way to sack it, we're screwed either way. If I chump, then I stop them from doing a 3-mana way to sacrifice the Huntmaster, but I feel like they're probably just going to have the -2/-2 sack a creature spell, which is 2 mana, which I can't stop them from doing, so I'm going to keep this 1/1. No way to sacrifice, they just wanted a bunch of treasure. Okay. Well, I think I hold up the Huntmaster ability. Theoretically making a 3/3 to block with. I should probably hold up the 1/1 as well. Feels really risky to hold up a single blocker. How aggressive they played last turn, they probably have some kind of burn in their hand. I mean, they're stuck on 3 lands, so it is all gas. Everything in their hand is a spell, except for potentially whatever they drew this turn. They could have drawn 1 land here, but they didn't play a land in the last couple turns. Kenra's Spell Spear. They have the 4 mana up to pay for the Assimilate Essence, but then they won't cast anything else this turn. Like, that's spooky enough to go for it. They're going to let it get countered rather than sacrifice all of their treasure. And they're just going to pass turn now. So let's turn the Elemental into a 3/3. Hit another land. The 3/3 hits them just as hard as the 3/4, so I think I hold the 3/4 as a blocker. I guess I could just really hold on to Artistic Refusal for dear life and just send all these in. Double block on the 3/4. Trades. They are down to 7, but they gain 2, so they're actually at 9. Land number 4. Hey, Sheoldred. And there is the concession from our opponent. Very powerful Mythic Rare Bomb spell. Luckily for us, we had the counter spell still in hand for that, to make sure that that does not take over the game. So we are going to start off 1-0 as we head into Game 2. Here we are for Game 2. We could have some mana issues here, but we are on the draw, so we have a few draw steps to find land number 3, in which case we get to play Preening Champion and a Cryptomancer. And if it's a swamp, then we can cast pretty much everything. We did hit land number 3 on the first draw, but it is an island, so I still need to hit 1 swamp at some point. But we're looking pretty good. 4th island is awkward because that's super redundant, but it does let us get to Protocol Knight at least. Blighted Burgeoning from our opponent, who is on blue, green, and black. Discarded a Halo Forger to their Oracle of Tragedy. So they are going to be ramping up here. They will have 5 mana up next turn if they still play their land for turn. Hopefully they just play one kind of gigantic green creature and then I can just tap it down with my Protocol Knight. Kami of Whispered Hopes. That is not a gigantic green creature, but is one I could tap down. I think I'd rather hold up Assimilate Essence for when they play something spookier. And I get to hold up Assimilate Essence and Cryptomancer. We are unfortunately yet to draw the black source. We have drawn another black card, so the mana issue has only just gotten a bit worse. Send in the 2/2 and the 1/3. Sure, I think I take 3 damage rather than Cryptomancer just to make this trade. And they're going to pass turn. Well, as far as Dispersal is not a bad draw. I'm going to have to use that to find our swamp. Luckily, we're really not under much pressure, so I can afford to just hold up Afara's Dispersal rather than playing Protocol Knight. And we get to Dispersal a token too, which is very good. Just fully destroy it and Surveil 2. Alright, mill 2 non-swamp cards. They're powerful spells, but really hard to cast without the swamps. We could get to Artistic Refusal off of Convoke, but we're digging. Fairy Mastermind also helps dig, so that is going to be the play this turn. Also helps us deal more damage to our opponent. We're actually just winning the race here. Neither of us has really done anything this game. It's kind of awkward. There's a Vanquish the Weak. Happy to have a Cryptomancer. Another Vanquish. Maybe it's just all removal. Dispersal? Okay, that's fine. I can just recast a Breeding Champion as long as it'll still be around eventually. So they are surveilling, digging for some threats, I guess. They just milled a couple lands. Did not want to see those. Those are some very pretty lands, by the way. Actually, some cool old borders. Yeah, I would rather Assimilate Essence that than cast the Fairy Mastermind right now. That is pretty threatening. A 5/6 that can get unblockable if they tap their Kami and their Oracle every turn. Down to 14. There's the swamp, let's go. So I get to spend triple blue on Breeding Champion and hold up Final Flourish or Fairy Mastermind. I probably should have been attacking with my 1/1 earlier. I've been paying a massive amount of attention to how well those attacks would be. Ooh, Emoti's a really strong card, because even if I immediately countered Emoti, they would get a Cascade, and the Cascade, luckily, is just a 2/1 Order of the Mirror. That can turn into a 3/3, but not a super duper strong card. I can always Vanquish the Weak it. I'm going to Final Flourish Emoti. Well, no, I should probably speed up the clock, play the Fairy Mastermind now, play the Final Flourish before they untap, for sure, but I can do it like during my turn right now. Play around them having a 6 mana instant to play during, like right after they untap. Yeah, we want to kill this before their main phase where they could just cast a 6 mana spell. So let's go Flourish, Emoti. Probably should have attacked with the 1/1s again. Probably playing it overly safe here, especially because I'm about to get another one. a lot of little potential points of missed damage. If that ends up adding up, that is self-imposed there. We'll be playing some tighter combats, getting extra points of damage in there. Give our opponent less opportunities to draw out of our lead on the board. Ooh, that's a real strong draw. I think I want to just Protocol Knight down the Order of the Mirror, though. This is the only creature that can really attack through our army of 1/1s particularly well. Oh, and I guess I'm gonna have a 3/4 blocker up as well, so I can send them all in. But I guess we just lose 1 to Oracle of Tragedy, get 2 damage in. Probably not worth it at this point. Three, 4, 5. I guess I still have Artistic Refusal up off the Convoke, which is pretty incredible. We'll lock down the Order of the Mirror. It's the only creature that could get in. Gloomfang Mauler. I guess I'll go for the... Well, if I go for Refusal, they can hit me for 2. That doesn't matter. That doesn't flip the battle or anything. They are going to scoop them up. We are now 2-0. Not the tightest plays there. Definitely missed a few points of damage with the elemental tokens earlier in that game, but luckily for us, did not matter in the end. Just hit a lot of our high quality cards throughout the game. 2-0 heading into game number 3. Alright, our opponent is on the play here. Other than that, I like what's going on here. Turn 2 Assimilate Essence, turn 3 Preening Champion, and then just Cryptomancer it up. If we were on the play, this hand would be really good, being able to just Assimilate Essence their 2-drop. But, fortunately, we gotta let them get the 2-drop down and then try to assimilate the 3-drop. And we can't assimilate that. So this hand actually plays significantly worse on the draw than it would have on the play, which is super awkward. Because their 2-drop was counterable by assimilate, but their 3-drop wasn't. So just the being on the play versus being on the draw coin flip already looks like it is monumentally affecting the early turns of this game in a negative way for us. Buff the Order of the Mirror. Okay, that's still a trade for Preening Champion. I'm not in love with the trade, but I can't just let them have 3 3/3s on board. And this flips into a 4/4 that's like impossible to block. Yeah, we're already really far behind. A 3/2, I guess a 3/2, a 2/2, and a 3/3. But, yeah, this will turn into a 4/4 that gives blockers -1/-1. So we'll do the block. Disturbing Conversion, that is super rude. But on the plus side, the only thing Preening Champion was ever going to do was chump block if they had Disturbing Conversion. Because they would just put it on the champion when I declare an attack and I deal 0 damage. So it is what it is. Probably on Mastermind plus Cryptomancer. We get to spend all 4 of our mana that way. If we play Huntmaster, that's all we're doing. It's just the Huntmaster. And this way we get to hold up Assimilate as well. If they have another powerful creature or battle to cast, we can counter it. I think I just take 5 here. I'd rather hold up Assimilate Essence than try to have a Cryptomancer make our Elemental trade up. Okay, so we do get to counter the Overgrown Pest. Now we drop a Fairy Mastermind. Draw for turn. Now I can cast Huntmaster and still hold up a Cryptomancer. Protect something from removal, or let our 1/1 Elemental trade into the Order of the Mirror if they don't flip it. They are going to transform their egg. Send in the squad. Their attempts to get a Cryptomancer kill here. Well, that is unfortunate. I was hoping they wouldn't have any tricks that I could make the Huntmaster 3/4 so we would kill and lose nothing. We still definitely play a Cryptomancer and just have these trade then. Final Flourish. That is really good with a Cryptomancer. Super, super helpful. Wish I had one more black source to play Berserker this turn too. I don't need to flourish immediately. I've got a tiny bit of breathing room. So I'm going to try to speed up the clock with Scornblade Berserker. Send the 3/3, the 2/2. I'll chump 3. I can still flourish an elemental. Island cycle a Tidal Terror. They either land in like an Eyes of Gataxias or something. Furtive Analyst. Okay. That's fine. Let's do the card draw. Another black source. Alright. Swamp, Island, Swamp were the 3 draws we got. I did want the second black source, but the next Island and Swamp part is a little awkward. Alright, we are almost definitely gonna have to Final Flourish this turn, so let's just hold all the mana up for now. Okay. Can try to have a Cryptomancer also let us kill a Negotiator. But if I Cryptomancer onto Mastermind, then we kill them in 3 flying attacks, which could be important. Let's try these. Let's try things this way. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't have blocked with Berserker this turn. I should have just let the 1 damage through. Since I have the Mastermind's 4-mana ability that I could have done instead if I wanted to draw cards here. Another Emoti. Card is strong. Oh god. Xerax Strobe Knight. That's a good one. That's a good one. Well, I think that pretty much just stops all our chances. Doesn't help too much that we hit another land, but those are just some great spells now. I'm just going to slam down Cryptomancer. 3-turn clock is at the ready. Do we hit anything? We hit a Strobe Knight. Sword or something. Alright. Super crossed fingers going for 3 attack lethal. Stasis Field the Strobe Knight. So we've got nothing in the sky. Jump all that damage, go to 6. Eyes of Gataxias, it's going to be really hard to do. But if I can survive this next attack, And I could kill them with a removal spell on Xerx Strobe Knight. It's probably in our best interest to draw another card here. They already drew their second card for the turn, so we don't draw 2 cards when I do this. Each player just draws 1, but I think we need something other than these islands. Temporal Cleansing and Afara's Dispersal. So we have Afara's Dispersal and Scornblade Berserker on blocks. Then Temporal Cleansing to get the Strobe Knight out of the way to kill them next turn. So we theoretically have a blocker and a bounce spell to block the 3/1, bounce the 3/3, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's too much damage. That's lethal. I have to Temporal Cleansing, which means I don't get to save it. I don't get to save it to get Strobe Knight out of the way, but I guess that's okay. We're just on Surveil into a way to get rid of Strobe Knight. And this is all banking on them not having removal for the Fairy Mastermind. But it is what it is. We're at where we're at. We gotta play to the outs that we have, even if it's unlikely. It's the best card to get rid of right now. I mean, I guess I could just choose the Strobe Knight instead of getting rid of a 3-power thing. I think I can survive getting rid of the Strobe Knight here. I can chump a 3/3, bounce a 3-power, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, if they have nothing, I can survive. If I bounce a 3-power instead, then I bounce a 3, bounce a 3, block a 2, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be 5 either way, I think. So yeah, we choose Strobe Knight. All right. All in. The most crossed fingers. That seems lethal. They also draw a card, but I think they already played land for turn, so I don't think they can replay the Strobe Knight to have a blocker. If this isn't lethal, they are dead. Block, bounce. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Dang it. I could, if I surveil into something immediately, I can draw it off of Berserker. So if I hit another Afara's Dispersal, we have an out. That's not Afara's Dispersal, and I don't have the mana to sack this to draw into that, to play it immediately. If I had one more mana, this would save me, this Final Flourish. Yeah, I just have to top deck another Dispersal. Right now. The timer went away, which means we're dead. We have no responses. I love how the timer goes away. It just lets you know, like, you're already dead. You're already dead. Before you even see the card, it's like, you got no responses. You just have land 50. Well, we did what we could there. Really close game in the end. Maybe there was somewhere we could have gotten rid of the flyer a little earlier, got a little damage in a little earlier. Chip in for that extra 3. That was an uphill battle, though. Trying to wade our way through some extra lands. Not quite make it there. 2-1, heading into game number 4. All right, here we are for game 4 with a fine hand. Not super exciting, not super bad. Some fine stuff going on. Okay. I could hold on to Berserker number 2 just so that I can more easily double spell with Strobe Knight later, but I'm just gonna get greedy. Make a big Berserker for damage. Kithkin Billy Rider, 1-3 double strike. Well, 3-4 beats that pretty handedly. So we will allow them the opportunity to block. We take the opportunity to defeat the Billy Rider. And I still have the mana up to now sack the Berserker during their end step. Sad day for Xerox Strobe Knight, but it is what it is. Let's see if it continues to be a sad day for Xerox Strobe Knight. No, we get to play it this turn. They did not go for the double block on the 3-4. They're like, nah, you got tricks. After what happened last time, you've got tricks all day long. Ooh, and they really didn't want to lose one of these creatures when they were about to put a +1/+1 counter on their whole board. So goodbye, Cyber Cryptomancer. We gotta make sure that does not flip instantaneously. Sorry, Cryptomancer. You did good. You did great work. Now we just gotta poke them with Strobe Knight and defend the invasion of Moog with our 3-4. Alabaster Host Sanctifier. Shauna Sisei's Legacy. Very big card if they have enough creatures. This might be a little greedy, but I'm tempted to Final Flourish the Sanctifier to make Shauna a 3-3 and then vanquish the weak Shauna. That way I cast 2 spells and I make a 2-2. And then if I top deck any non-land, I have all my mana up for it. Because that's a lot of nonsense they have on board. That play is kind of relying on top decking something though, because if I make that play and then I top deck a land, next turn isn't, like, we just don't really do anything next turn. I guess they're at 13, so we tripped them down to 11 just with the Strobe Knight. This could be wrong, but I'm going to go for it. Well, what are you going to do about it? We'll hit for 2, put them to 11. Pass the turn. Good grief. They are now 4/4s thanks to a second invasion of Moog. Ay, ay, ay. Probably worth it to trade a 3-4 up into one of these at least. Kill the non-token because we can bounce the token. But I think we have to let them get their thing that's going to keep buffing the board at this point, because the only way to stop them from doing it is to just chump. Can't draw the card here while still killing the knight. We will keep poking them for 2 in the sky and hoping for the best. Our opponent has hit land 5 eventually. We're having to sail back for a 3-4 haste to flip the other invasion and just run away with it here. A little too late for the counterspell. Yep. The main deck attracts his fall coming in hot. This is exact lethal if I don't chump block. Well, that's really unfortunate. This matchup felt super winnable. I think our deck can absolutely compete with theirs. But our draws, that game certainly did not line up. So, 2-2 heading into game number 5. The only thing I could have really done differently that game was play it really slow and just don't pull the trigger on any of my removal spells until they do make an attack attempting to flip one of the battles. Don't know how it would have panned out for us, because obviously we don't know when they would have gone for that kind of attack, but it certainly would have panned out at least a little bit better for us, because part of the line that I took of getting that 2-2 was hoping to hit more plays. Like, I think it's only definitely a good line if we just immediately top deck a spell, but if we don't find another castable spell in the next couple turns or something, then the line that I went for pans out really poorly for us. I think statistically speaking, on average, we're going to hit another spell to cast sometime soon there. But when I make that line and then we just go land, 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 useless counter spell, it's just going to be the nail in the coffin there. So we got about as punished for that line as I could have. So we'll never know how it would have gone if I didn't go for the double removal spell play, but I can't imagine it would have went much better with those as our next sequence of draws. Don't know if I keep here. Opponent's on the play, so I don't think I do. With Assimilate Essence on the draw, much worse than Assimilate Essence on the play. And we basically have nothing till turn 3 if they don't give us a counterable spell there. Plus, we only have one color of mana. There's just multiple things going pretty wrong there. His hand is significantly better. Kind of think I have to get rid of Artistic Refusal here. I think I need to guarantee I can make it to the champion. I guess if I don't make it to champion, just Mastermind into Cryptomancer is still good enough, so might be a little greedy, but I'm just going to go for double island here. Alright, pans out well, because we draw island number 4 if we had kept the first one there. So, plays a lot better to have put that island on the bottom than anything else. Our opponent has a turn 2 Finn the Fangbearer to start loading me up with poison counters. They put 2 poison counters on me every time they hit me with a Death Toucher. If we're at 10 poison, we lose the game. We're just going to pass turn. Well, this is probably going to die to removal then. They had a nice long think about passing the turn with 3 mana up, and they decided to, which means they definitely have a spell, which means it's probably, yep, the removal for the Mastermind. Right, now we drop Preening Champion into Protocol Knight next turn. Finn's coming in hot. Let's go up to 4 poison counters now. And a Gift of Completion for a 3/3 blocker on the ground, or a 3/3 attacker. They can do whatever they want with it. Unfortunately, Protocol Knight cannot tap and stun artifacts, which is really weird to me because they made it so Bola Slinger can in white. It's like a lot of cards that can interact with incubators before they're flipped, but the Protocol Knight's like, nah, I'm good. So we can't get in with the 1/1 here because we can't tap down the egg. So I guess we're just going to tap down Finn for good measure. I would rather play a Protocol Knight than hold up a Cyber Cryptomancer. And they're going to Final Flourish the Preening Champion. Fair enough. Makes it so the Protocol Knight doesn't stun. I'd like to get poisoned out one time. I'll go up to 6 here. If we lose the game to poison, that would be the coolest loss we've had today by a lot. I'll give them some hits here. I don't want to immediately trade my Protocol Knight into that and then just get beaten down by 3/3s. Significantly more boring way to lose the game. And it looks like that is what's gonna happen here. Because I'm gonna have to trade into the Finn the Fangbearer in the next 2 attacks if I don't hit a swamp. And then they're gonna have a bunch of... They're gonna have a 6/6 from Vatkeeper and a 4/4 from Vatkeeper. No Finn the Fangbearer attack. Okay, they are doing it. They're still going for poison. I could have a 4/5 Protocol Knight and a 1/1. That's still only 5 damage, so I can't kill the 6/6. And the worst part about this is they aren't even going to cast a spell these next couple turns. Because they're just going to spend 5 mana to flip that into a 4/4 and attack me with that too next turn. With their Elvish Vatkeeper. So I kind of feel like I have to Artistic Refusal to draw 2, discard 1, and pray for a swamp. Let's do it. These are not swamps. They're not going to be casting spells soon. Let's get rid of the counter spell. This is also not a swamp. Temporal Cleansing's not horrible. Can fully kill the 6/6 with it. If they have a removal spell, I'm going to have to chump block Finn now. If they don't have a removal spell, then this is the turn we have to just trade Protocol Knight into Finn. If they have 2 removal spells, we're dead. Below Island 5. At this rate, you'd think I'm on like a 12-5 split mana-wise. Maybe 10-7 was a little bit too much, but not this much too much. I think we've had 2 games like this. That's a removal spell on a stick creature, and hey, black spell 3 before swamp number 1 means we are I guess not dead yet because this has hexproof, so they can't kill it with the instructor. If this didn't have hexproof, we'd be dead right now. So that's kind of funny. Hexproof chump blocker. Give us a guaranteed extra turn here. Another Elvish Vat Keeper. That is a very strong card. Island number 6, I guess. Not that it matters at this point, but that is some rub-ins there from the shuffler. Salt in the wound. We are going to be 2 and 3 today. Don't think I played things out perfectly, but I think my worst plays weren't horrible. I think my worst plays were in like the winning game where I just kind of forgot to attack with elementals a couple times. Other than that, our second loss, it was a bit greedy to just go for the double removal spell, create a 2/2 knight. That was our other worst play, but I don't think we could have changed the outcome of that game with how we drew in the next several turns. I don't think we could have changed the outcome of our third loss either with how we drew for several turns. And I have terrible short-term memory, so I don't remember our first loss, but I know we had mana issues a few other times, so maybe we should have been on the just standard 9-8 split, but that still feels kind of nuts. We have 6 black cards in here. I feel like 10-7 was reasonable enough. Did not play out that way for us, though. We had multiple games with some pretty severe mana issues. I just don't remember if it was 2 losses with those mana issues, or it was another game where we were stuck on mana for a while, but we did find the win in the end. That is a possibility. Yeah. It's the only thing I really have to say here. There's not much we could do overall. Maybe 9-8 split is better. I think this deck was pretty solid, though. I think it played a little bit below its pay grade just based on how we drew. And so we get a bit below what it should. Get a 2-3 instead of the 4-3, 5-3 average that I think this deck would be. Again, there's nothing explosive going on. Fairy Mastermind as the best card in the deck is good. Double Artistic Refusal is good, but certainly none of the super explosive things that this format is capable of. Just a solid, average, decent deck here that I'd expect to go 4-3, 5-3 most of the time, with some pretty mediocre draws to drag it down to the lower end of the spectrum of what it could do at a 2-3 today. Not horrible, at least we got a couple wins in there, but certainly had some awkward games of Magic. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons very much for supporting this channel, as well as you for watching. If you enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below, and if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.